Certainly. Here's the modified article in the style of a continuous, impassioned speech, with a focus on storytelling, political undertones, and emotional weight. On a quiet Sunday morning, a conversation was reignited that has become one of the most polarizing debates in modern American politics. The topic wasn't new. The players, familiar. But the setting, a podcast episode, lent it fresh urgency. The issue of transgender college athletes remains at the epicenter of a national cultural clash. On the Excerpt podcast, USA Today's Zach Schermele took listeners into the complex, evolving world where politics, education, and identity collide. It's no longer just a question of eligibility. It's about who gets to define fairness, who gets to belong, and who gets to play. The Biden administration has defended its broader support for LGBTQ+ rights. Yet in the shadows of college athletics, Republican lawmakers continue to draw battle lines. They are laser-focused on limiting transgender athletes, particularly trans women, from competing in women's sports. What began as school board rumblings and local legislation has now snowballed into a full-on cultural war. Zach Schermele, with his deep understanding of the education system, explained that this is not just about sports. It's about access. It's about dignity. And it's about how college campuses, often bastions of progressivism, are increasingly caught in the crossfire. Trans students are not just athletes, they're roommates, classmates, scholars, and leaders. They walk the same hallways, attend the same lectures, yet often face a uniquely hostile landscape. The Trump administration, returning to campaign mode, has revived its tough stance on trans rights. Rhetoric that paints transgender athletes as threats to women's sports has resurfaced in stump speeches and conservative media. Critics argue it's not about protecting fairness, it's about inflaming fears. About securing votes. About turning real people into political pawns. And yet, behind every headline, there's a young person simply trying to compete. A trans student hoping to chase a dream. To wear a jersey. To feel the rush of competition. These are not hypotheticals. These are lives being legislated in real time. Zach reminded listeners that courts are now a frequent destination for these disputes. Lawsuits have been filed in nearly every region of the country. Title X, a landmark civil rights law designed to ensure gender equity in education, is being reinterpreted again and again. Its language, once focused on women's access, is now being stretched to include or exclude trans athletes, depending on who is arguing. Colleges themselves are unsure where to turn. Athletic departments await federal guidance, caught between compliance and compassion. Coaches want to support their players, but often feel muzzled by policy. University presidents are pulled between politics and progress. It's a climate of confusion and fear. Parents, too, are grappling with the moment. Some worry about fairness in competition. Others worry about the emotional toll on their children. Transgender athletes, already navigating the minefield of identity, now do so under a national spotlight. And while political leaders make speeches, trans athletes lace up their shoes in silence. They stretch, breathe, and step into arenas that have suddenly become battlegrounds. Not for medals, but for recognition. For belonging. Republican governors in several states have already signed laws restricting trans participation. From Florida to Texas, the message is clear. The playing field is not equal, because the rules have been rewritten. Advocates argue these bans are discriminatory, violating constitutional protections. Opponents insist they are preserving fairness. But who defines fairness? Zach Schermele pointed out that many of these policies are not grounded in scientific consensus. Instead, they lean on fear. They weaponize biology, ignoring the complexity of identity. Medical experts and advocacy groups continue to urge nuance. They argue that not all trans athletes dominate. Not all competitions are skewed. Context matters. And still, nuance rarely trends. What we're witnessing, Schermele noted, is a test case for the broader future of civil rights in America. If lawmakers can control who participates in a swim meet, what's to stop them from deciding who gets to use a bathroom? Who gets a scholarship? Who feels safe in a classroom? And make no mistake, students are